Hello, I'm Matthew Gavidia. Today in the MGH Life Sciences Medical World News, the Center for Biosimilars is pleased to welcome Dr. Surya Singh, President and owner of Singh Healthcare Advisors LLC, based in Lexington, Massachusetts. Are payers preferring to cover multiple biosimilars of the same drug, or are they keeping it narrow to one or two biosimilar versions, and why?
I think that, that question really gets to the heart of the competitive dynamic. So, payer deciding to prefer multiple agents rather than one really depends on how much value essentially the entity on the other side of the negotiating table thinks that they can derive from offering a better deal, essentially a lower cost and a larger reduction in cost from discount or rebate. And so if the deal is good enough, then I think that, you're seeing people narrow, and there are examples of that, people narrowing the biosimilar on the formulary to just one particular biosimilar product. And then there are lots of examples where multiple are covered, and both the, patient and provider, I guess, have, fewer restrictions, or it's not, it's based more on inventory and product selection by the provider and so on than it is by formulary requirements in those cases. But usually that's a marker of there not being a competitive dynamic that would lead people to reduce their price further in order to get, more narrow or even exclusive coverage.
What do you envision happening when, say, if 9 adalimumab biosimilars come onto the market in 2023? What will formulary options look like?
Yeah, I think, so adalimumab, Humira, as the, sort of largest drug by, sort of spend by the reimbursed amount currently, it's going to be a sort of a new chapter in competition, because I think it will enter into this very, very highly competitive market. Whether there will be the ability to be able to really treat those new biosimilars interchangeably, that remains to be seen. I actually don't know offhand how many of them are planning on pursuing biosimilar versus interchangeable designation. But as it gets closer, I will be, tracking that closely, as many people will be. And I think the most sort of safe set of assumptions about that situation is that with enough competition, it's still not going to look like a generic, AB rated generic type of price erosion. But with 9 biosimilars, we should be able to get a greater degree than of net price reduction than what we've seen in the biosimilar categories that have launched to date. And the stakes are very high, as has been well documented and publicized. There has been a lot of inflationary price increase for branded adalimumab over the years. And, I expect to see the biosimilars, I hope, is less of the like, what do I anticipate, more what do I hope? I hope that happens rather quickly, but it probably will take a couple of annual bidding cycles for it to really, for the effect to take hold.
To what extent is the promise of biosimilar access and affordability a reality based on these factors?
I think biosimilars are, current state, based on the projections that most people put into the public domain, including me, before the first ones launched, they're underperforming, both in terms of, how much penetration and adoption each, I guess overall they've gotten. There are examples where it's been, it's better, but I think, present day, 2020, is this where we thought we'd be? No, I don't think we've seen as much price, net cost reduction as we thought we would. That said, what is it that can drive more access and affordability, I guess, of these categories where biosimilars have entered and the ones that they're about to enter over the next few years? I think it is that we're able to do two things. One is at the formulary construct and the competition, the market basket of drugs that's used for competition. And I think some of the major players on the managed care side and the pharmacy benefit area, management area, are able now to manage across benefit more effectively. And so that really should allow a greater amount of price reduction when it comes to the classes that are seeing biosimilars be introduced. So that's a big deal. And then the second one of, kind of access and affordability impact is that I think as we get, there's not a single number that I can give, but as we get more companies willing to essentially take on the risk of a biosimilar launch, of having a biosimilar enterprise and arm, and going through the expense of launching onto the market. And as most people who follow the space know, a lot of the major players and companies that have biosimilar programs now are the same ones that had biologic programs in the first place. And so they have a lot of experience with this type of manufacturing and so on. But as we get more entrants on average into a particular category, then I think we'll start to see that their effective competition to really help us get a greater amount of affordability in those categories.
And lastly, do you have any other concluding thoughts?
I'm still optimistic about biosimilars and their impact. I think they're, sort of one of the factors that I think about when I think about, sort of overall ability of the pharmacy side of healthcare spending to generate headroom basically for new therapies. I think biosimilars are a big part of that, of where we need to, in essence, seize the opportunity and see adoption that can help us drive greater price reduction so that we can all afford to pay for some of the innovative new therapies that are in, largely in specialty pharmacy, but just across healthcare in general. And, I do a lot of work on cell and gene therapies, and I'm very interested in seeing those take hold and be adopted when they've been proven to be effective and can really offer, something that maybe is not quite a cure, but it approximates a cure for people. And in order to do that, we need to create headroom by having price reductions in some of the classes that are no longer novel, and stop having, sort of essentially either line extensions or creative patent extensions that lead to, sort of a longer life for the branded agent to be either exclusive or really dominant. So anyway, but my concluded thought is that this can be, like, biosimilars can drive, again, not generic type price erosion, and ultimately, sort of the ability to be able to interchange across the board, across manufacturers. That's not going to happen in every category, but they can be economically a lot more advantageous to the system and to society and to net cost reduction in pharmacy than they have been so far. So it's just taking longer, but we'll ultimately get there.
To learn more, visit our website at centerforbiosimilars.com. I'm Matthew Gavidia. Thanks for joining us.